you can draw this in Procreate. Get ready for another You Can Draw This video, because in this tutorial we will be drawing this fun and colorful landscape. And I'm sure you can create this if you follow the video all the way till the end, and don't be scared to just hit pause or rewind if things are going too fast for you. Oh, and don't forget that once you reach the end of the video and you have created your landscape, to share it on Instagram and tag me in the image, not just in the description, so that way I will be able to find your work and perhaps we'll see it in the next You Can Draw This video. So grab your pen, your Apple Pencil or your finger, because this one is actually manageable with a finger, but still I prefer using the Apple Pencil. And for our canvas, I am using a canvas that is 2500 by 2500 pixels. And I have created a color palette for you in case you want to use the exact same colors I'm using during this video. You can download it through the link in the description. First thing we'll do today is add a slight color to our background. Let's go to the layer menu and click background color. Now our color menu will pop up and let's pick this color in our color palette. It's a slight light purplish color. Then we'll go to the layer menu again and we will work on layer 1. And for our color, we'll pick this nice purple color. And for our brush, we will go to the calligraphy brushes and use the monoline brush. Let's zoom out just a little bit. The size is a bit small. Let's go a bit bigger. Let's say 30%. And the opacity is at 100%. First thing we'll do is create a circle. So just draw a circle, hold your pen in place or your finger, and tap one finger on your screen to make it snap to a perfect circle. Let's go for something like this. You can click Edit Shape here at the top and move it around. I want it to be slightly off center, a little bit more to the top, like that. And now you can just fill your shape by dragging in the color. I don't just want a circle, I want some extra shapes here at the bottom. So let's create those. We'll create a little bit like droplets, little shapes coming out of our circle. So we'll go outside of our circle here. Make these wobbles. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. You don't have to make them exactly like mine. You can play around with this, with these shapes. You just want some nice wobbles. Then we'll drag in the color again to fill these shapes. And be sure that if you are seeing a slight white edge, that you might need to adjust your fill threshold. And you can do that by dragging in the color and then sliding to the left or right. Here at the top, you'll see color drop threshold. And that way you can fix that light edge that you might see around the edges. Let's fill this area here. And now let's move to the eraser to adjust these little parts here. Make a little indent here. I want to make sure that the eraser is set to the monoline brush as well, and you can do that by just clicking the eraser and holding your pen or finger there for a few seconds. Like that. Now we will be erasing with the monoline brush. Let's make it a little bit smaller. I'll go for 30% here as well. And we can adjust the shape a little bit. Here, for instance, we'll remove a little part. And you can just turn around your canvas to suit your needs. Have it at an angle that you prefer. And here on this side, we can do the same thing. Just slightly. And I want to make this Put in a little bit more. And you can just carve your little droplets, your wobblies that are coming out of your circle. You can just adjust them by using the brush and the eraser until you have something that you are happy with. Just making these edges a little bit more tidy. And if you tend to make wobbly lines, what you can do is go to your brushes, to the monoline brush, click it, and then go to Streamline, which you can find under Stroke Path. If you turn it to max, well, what Procreate will do is it will streamline your strokes, making it easier to get smooth lines. Now we have our basic shape, our circle with wobbles. Let's create a new layer. Let's go to the layer menu, click the plus for a new layer, and we will set this to clipping mask. Click the layer and select clipping mask. Now this layer is clipped to the layer underneath, and I must have told you this like 100 times if this is the 100th You Can Draw This video that you're watching, but I'll have to keep repeating it. Clipping mask, what it does is it'll clip to the layer, and whatever we paint on this layer that is clipped will only show up on that shape underneath. So it'll only show up on our circle with wobbles. Now we'll go to the selection tool, that's the S-shaped ribbon. We will set it to rectangle, and we'll go from the bottom of our screen all the way up to about halfway of our circle. Now we can fill our selection. When you have an active selection, paint will only show up inside of your selection. So that way you can make very clean shapes. Let's pick this fourth color in the color palette and let's just drop it into our selection. And we can turn off the selection by clicking that S-shaped ribbon again. Next I want to work on the sky, and the sky should be on a layer underneath that land layer that we just created. We want it to be underneath because we don't want the paint of the sky to show up on our land rectangle. So first click layer 1, then click the plus, and a new layer will show up in between these two. For our brush, we will go to the airbrushing brushes and use the soft brush. I have this brush set to 40% opacity. And for our size, let's go for 15% perhaps. And for our color, we will use this very bright blue, that third color in the color palette. And we will make some strokes near the horizon, slowly building up that blue in the sky. Don't go all the way to the top. You want that blue to be at the bottom. So just make some horizontal strokes. This looks good. To make it more smooth, a smoother gradient, you can go to the magic wand, click Gaussian blur, and then slide your pen or your finger to the right side of your screen like this and make a nice smooth gradient. We can go for something like 23.7%. That's looking good, and you can just click the magic wand again to get out of that menu. Next, let's create a river. We will create our river on a layer on top of all the others. So click layer 2 first and then click the plus to create a new layer, and don't set this one to clipping mask. We want this layer to be free and to be able to go everywhere, because we want our river to go outside of that shape, outside of our circle with wobbles. We want our river to start at the horizon and go all the way down and then drop over our bottom here. And there is a way to make sure that we won't be painting over our horizon. What we can do is go to our layers, click that block that we made, that rectangle, layer 2, click it, then use select, and then go back to that new layer that we just created, because remember what I told you about selections? Now we can only paint inside of that selection. Paint won't show up outside of that selection, and that's great because we don't want our paint to go over the horizon. It would be weird if our river would show up in the sky, right? For our brush, we will go back to the monoline brush. So go to calligraphy and click monoline. And for our color, we can keep using that bright blue. And we can make a, well, like a double S shape, a zigzaggy snake from the top to the bottom. And don't worry, if you can't get it right away, you can just use multiple tries. Tap 2 fingers on your screen to undo if it's not working out straight away. Who knows, maybe I even tried this like 20 times and I just cut it out of the video. You won't ever know. It might seem like I do everything perfectly straight away in my videos, but who knows? Alright, let's do this. We'll start at the top here and make a zigzaggy line going down like that. And here at the bottom, we'll make a straight line down, and then we'll make another zigzag line trying to copy the shape that we just created. So we'll start here, and it'll get thicker as we approach that edge. I think that's looking pretty good. Let's close our shape here at the top. And now let's make some drops here at the bottom. We'll go up like this and make some various drips here. Vary the shapes a bit. I'll make it a little bit thicker here. Don't worry, you can just adjust your river. Let's fill that shape now first. So we'll just drag in that circle. And I'll go over this area. And at this point, you can just work on your river a bit. Perhaps you want to make some areas a bit wider, or you want to use your eraser to erase parts. I'll erase a little bit here. And I want to make it a little bit thinner near the horizon. And there we have our river. Let's go back to the brush and turn off the selection. Now let's move to the mountains. We'll go back to our layers, and I want the mountains to be on a layer beneath our land. So we'll click that air layer where we made that gradient. Click the plus because the mountains will be in front of our sky and behind our land. So on this layer, let's use the monoline brush again, and let's pick a color for our mountains. We'll use this 5th color in the color palette. Now for our mountains, we'll start right next to our river here and make a wobbly line going up and down a bit here. And now be sure to close your shape, even though you can't really see it, and drag in the color. And now let's make another mountain on the other side of our river. So again, let's start here, go up and make a wobbly shape, up and down again. And make sure to close your shape here before you drag in the color to fill it. Next up, our moon. Let's create a moon. We can do that on a layer on top of our mountain. So just click the plus to create a new layer. And for the color, we will pick this very bright blue over here. Let's make a nice round moon. So we'll create a circle here. Hold your pen in place or your finger and tap one finger on the screen to make it snap to a perfect circle. And then drag in the color. Let me just move it up slightly. You can go to the arrow right here and drag your moon up just a little bit. To give our moon a little glow, we will duplicate this layer You can do that by swiping to the left and clicking duplicate. Duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. Then go to the layer that is underneath our first moon and go to the magic wand and use Gaussian blur. Again, you can swipe or slide to the right. And let's go for something around 9.6%. But if you want to use 9.7%, that's fine as well. Alright, for some clouds, let's create a new layer on top of our moon. So first, select layer 6, the second layer 6. Click the plus for a new layer. And for the color, we will use this light blue in our color palette. And I want to create some mist-like clouds. I'll just make some random shapes, a bit wobbly, and quite stretched. Then just drag in the color to fill your misty cloud. And let's create another one on this side. Again, I like to make that misty looking, quite elongated, giving it a bit of a mysterious look. It reminds me of a full moon where perhaps werewolves will show up. Yeah, I like the look of this. But of course you can create whatever type of clouds you prefer. I've done many types of clouds in my other You Can Draw This videos, so you can use those as well, of course. Alright, next up, let's create some trees on our horizon. We'll do that on a new layer. We'll create a new layer again, and we want that to be on top of our land layer because our trees might be covering some land. Let's just click the plus for a new layer, and just to be sure, let's use clipping mask so our trees won't show up outside of our shape if we get out of control and make super big trees. Who knows? Just to be sure. For our color, we will be using these two colors for our trees on the horizon. Let's start with this one, and we will make some really simplified trees. I'd like to start off with a bit of a rounded triangle. Now let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for 10%. And just make some little wobbles on the outside. And a little tree trunk at the bottom. And this is a process that will keep repeating. Try to make various sizes for your trees. Or of course you could also, if you like, you could use my free pine tree brush. But I like to have a bit of a stylized look for the trees here, but you could use the tree brush. I'll make some trees a bit bigger. Maybe some will be a bit thinner. But I'll keep using the same technique, making a bit of a rounded triangle and then adding these little wobbles on the side and then the tree trunk. Also make some a bit closer together. Don't space them out evenly. But yeah, vary the sizes and also the distance between them. So we'll just keep repeating this step. And in the meantime, let me answer some questions that I keep getting. Some questions I get more often than others. One I get a lot is, what app are you using? I can't imagine that you're watching this video and that you don't know that this is Procreate, but who knows? It is a question that I get a lot, so yeah, this is Procreate. What is it? About $10 in the App Store? So in case you didn't know yet, yeah, Procreate. Procreate's the app. Another question I get asked a lot is if I use a screen protector. And the answer to that is pretty simple. No, I don't use a screen protector. I have been using this iPad for about 2.5 years. And I have never used a screen protector and there's no scratch on it. Now let's switch to the other color to make some more trees, and let's just create them on a new layer. Just to keep these trees separate, I'll use clipping mask again just to be sure. And I'll go to this second color here in the color palette. Still varying the sizes of these trees and still following the same steps over and over, starting out with a triangle shape, adding some wobbles and a little tree trunk, filling in the gaps so that our horizon is nicely filled with these cute little pine trees. We're almost there. We almost have enough trees. Of course, you could also copy and paste your trees and fill your horizon like that. But I actually find it to be very relaxing to do something as repetitive as this. It's kind of like meditating. But if you find it really annoying, then you could just copy and paste, or like I said, use that free trees brush. I also have a forest brush back, by the way, which has even more trees than the free trees that I have already shared. So if you want more variation, then you can check that one out. Alright, before we are going to add our big trees in our scene, I would like to work on the river. Let's go to our river. First thing I like to do is make a selection of our shape here, our circle with wobbles. Click that layer and use select. Now if we go to our river layer, we will only be able to paint on the part of the river that is inside that shape. Click the layer and be sure to set it to alpha lock, because otherwise we will be painting outside of the shape that's already there, and now we have locked it and we will only be able to paint on the river. Now let's go to the airbrushing brushes and use the soft brush again. And for the color, we will use this blue right here. Now we are ready. We have our selection, we have alpha lock, and now we can go over that bottom part of our river, making that slightly darker. And now I would like to work on that part that is outside of the shape. So we will want to reverse our selection. And you can do that by going to the selection tool, not just click it, but hold it. And that will open the menu here, and you can click invert to invert your selection. First we need to select a brush, go to the brush, and now we can go over this area of our river. And I want to add a little bit of purple there as well. So let's go to the colors and use this purplish color and glaze over the bottom part of our river. Now we can turn off the selection by clicking that S-shaped ribbon. And if you want that area to be a bit more soft, have a softer transition, then we can go to the magic wand, use Gaussian blur again, and slide to the right. Just slightly, we'll go for 5% to soften that edge. Now let's also add some light touches. We will grab this very light blue here. Or is it white? No, it's not exactly white if you look at the hexadecimal code. It's almost white. And we'll still be using the soft brush, but we'll make it smaller. let's go for a small 3%. And let's lighten up some areas like here. Making some of these horizontal strokes. Now let's go even smaller. I'll go to 2% and make some horizontal strokes here as well. You can just turn your canvas if that's, well, if that works more easily for you. It does for me. So I'll just make some of these horizontal strokes, giving that river a little bit of a shine. Extra touch. Lightening it up here at the end. I think this gives a nice little extra to our river. Now let's get started on our bigger trees. I want this bigger tree to be in front of our shape, to stick out of our circle with wobble shapes. So just like the river, we don't want it to be clipped to that shape. So let's just create a new layer by clicking the plus. And for our brush, let's use the monoline brush again. Now onto our colors. Let's pick this second color over here. And now we will create a shape for our tree. Let's start over here. Go up. And we'll make a triangular shape again. Go up and then go down here. Now let's connect the underside here. So we have a bit of a rounded triangle. Then we'll go and add, well, some of these wobbles here. One on this side. And one on this side, a bit higher. We'll just add about 3 wobbles on each side, sticking out on the side of our triangle shape, like this. And let's adjust this area a little bit, making it a bit more pointy. And now let's fill our shape by dragging in the color. You might need to zoom in a little bit to fill these smaller shapes. And I'll go over this area to fill that as well. It was so tight there that I didn't want to fill. And you can tidy up the shape a little bit. That's a nice looking tree we got over there. Oh wait, I want to make this part a little bit more pointy as well. Let's give this tree a little trunk. We want that trunk to be behind our tree. So we'll have to make a layer underneath this tree. So first we'll click layer 4, then click the plus for a new layer. And for the color, we will pick this almost black color. Let's zoom in a little bit and create a trunk shape. Make sure that you close the shape behind that tree before you drag in the color to fill it. And now we have the base for our tree, but this is not it. It's not finished. We got a little trick up our sleeve because we are going to use the selection tool to add more depth to our tree here. Let's focus on our tree. Let's zoom in a bit. And let's go to the layer on which the tree is, and let's turn on alpha lock because we are going to paint on this layer, but we don't want any paint to show up outside of our tree. And to control where the paint is going even more, we will be using selections because you can only paint inside of selections. For our brush, we will be using the soft brush, though we will be making it a bit bigger. Let's go to around 10%. And the selection tool we'll be using is the Freehand Selection. So just go to the S shape ribbon and then set your selection tool to freehand. And now we can make freehand selections. And we'll start about here, then go past this wobble and make like this, well, kind of like curtains, I guess. A little bit of wobbly shapes. And if you click that little circle, it'll close your selection. Now go to your brush and pick a color. First we'll pick this light color here, that third color in the color palette, and add some light to the right side of our tree here. Gently glaze over it. And now we'll want to add a little shadow underneath this area. And we can do that by reverting our selection again. So click that S shape ribbon, but hold your pen to open the menu again and use invert. Then we'll go for a darker color, the fourth color here in the color palette. And we'll go over that underside here, creating a little bit of a drop shadow there. Like that. And then when you click the S shape ribbon, you'll go out of the selection. Now we will do that for each layer in our tree. So let's go back to the selection tool by clicking it, using Freehand Selection again. Start about here, go in, up and down, vary the shapes of these wobbles, go all the way around, click that little dot and close your selection. Then first we'll use the light color again, that's the third color here. Go over this underside here, lightening that area up, and then we will invert our selection again. So hold it, click invert, and go to the dark color again, the fourth color here in the color palette. And we'll go over that underside again, adding that drop shadow. Turn off the selection by clicking the S shape ribbon. And we'll continue again, clicking the S shape ribbon again and making a new freehand selection. This time down here. Like I said, vary the shapes of these little wobbles. And here, go all the way around, click that little dot, close your selection, and again, click the brush, pick the light color, that third color in the color palette, and lighten up that underside. Now we will revert our selection again by holding the S shape ribbon and clicking invert. Go to the dark blue, and then we'll go over this underside. Well, let's make this one pretty dark. It's all the way at the bottom of the tree. Like that. Then click the S shape ribbon to get out of the selection. There you have a nice looking tree. Now, if you just enjoyed that process of creating that tree, you can make a whole new tree here on the right side. If you just want to be fast, then you can just duplicate this tree. Let's select both layers by sliding to the right. Let's group these, close the group, and then if you slide to the left, you can click duplicate, and you'll have a group with a duplicate tree. Go to the move tool right here, And you can move your new tree around. Let's flip it horizontally so it'll look slightly different from our first tree. And let's also make it a bit smaller and a bit thinner. Let's turn off magnetics and let's use freeform. So we can make it a bit thinner and a bit smaller. Now let's move it to the side here. Make it overlap our shape a little bit. I think this is looking nice. And there you have your moonlit landscape with trees. I hope you have enjoyed following this tutorial. If you did, and if you want to support this channel, support the You Can Draw This video series, then you would be of great help if you leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and just let me know in the comments what you think of the whole series of this tutorial. Leave whatever thoughts you have. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.